boys? It's Matt. It's Brock. Jock
Week
Talk
3.
Podcast. We're back. That's right. Week 3 preview coming at you. Your Green Bay Packers, one of the few 2-0 teams left
Yes,
in
sir.
the NFL. There's going to be even fewer of them after this weekend with some of the matchups going on. So we'll talk a little bit about last week. Aaron Jones was king last week, but more looking forward to this week. We got a big game Sunday night coming up against the New Orleans Saints. So with that being said, Brock, obviously 2-0 feels pretty good, but how we doing?
Oh, we're great. I'm great. I mean, the Packers always bring a light to my Sundays, and it's just
When they
great.
win, at least.
Exactly. I mean, it didn't look very good early, but that second half, it was pure dominant. Dominant.
Absolutely. Yeah, so hit on it real quick. So two straight possessions to open up the game for the Lions. Just marched right down the Packers.
Too easy.
Too easy. Stafford looked good. The running game looked good. 14-3 early in the first half, and it wasn't looking very good. But football's all a game about adjustments, and that's exactly what the Packers did. Like I said, Aaron Jones finished with over 220 plus total yards, 3 touchdowns. Your boys at Jock Talk called it. We predicted at least 150 and 2 plus total touchdowns. So
yes, sir.
We sold them short a little bit, but we won't make that mistake again going forward. But otherwise, just other takeaways from last week. It's all over Twitter right now. Aaron Rodgers is just having fun. Yep. And he came out and said it. He's made some changes in his life. Don't know if that's a shot at Danica Patrick or not. But it's always it's also a different story when the Packers are winning. Yep. Football is a fun game, but it's even better when you're winning. So if the Packers were 0-2 at this point, is Aaron Rodgers still having as much fun? Yeah. Probably not. But it's nice to see that he's just having a good time, and like everyone on Twitter is saying, and we'll echo it. The NFL is in a tough spot, and Aaron Rodgers is a bad man, especially when he's having fun.
Yeah, that's one thing we kind of touched on off camera is Aaron Rodgers. When he's smiling, he's deadly. You don't want to have him smiling. You want him pissed off, and then he makes decisions maybe that are skewed because of things aren't going his way. I'll admit it. But when he's smiling, having fun, putting the ball in the right place, making right reads. I mean, also having a running game putting up almost 200 yards a game always helps. I mean, ain't nobody going to be mad at that. I mean, averaging 208 yards. Yes, it's only 2 games. It's early in the season. But if that's the benchmark we can stay at, I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers will be smiling for quite some time this season.
Yeah, absolutely. We hit on it a little bit. Aaron Jones was king, but it's not just Aaron Jones. No. Jamal Williams looked really good in the limited carries. A.J. Dillon, he hadn't had a lot of carries this year, but he's looked good in the few carries he's gotten. The offensive line looks really good. MVS is typical MVS. He's up, he's down, he's up. But I would say there's definitely been more ups so far through 2 games than there's been downs for him. So, looking forward to week 2. Again, we got the Saints Sunday Night Football in New Orleans. There's some question marks going into the game. We're recording this on Wednesday evening, so we still don't know about the status of Kenny Clark, Devontae Adams. They didn't practice today. Obviously the Packers are going to be a completely different team without Devontae, and we've seen how prior to making adjustments, the team looked different without Kenny Clark against the Lions last week.
Yeah, not having Kenny Clark early really showed it. I mean, we said they gave up 14 early points, and they just moved the guys around in the middle, and there was no pressure to be had, nothing. But in that second half, Pettine and the crew did their adjustments and had Zadarius lining up in the middle, had Rashawn Gary. They were getting pressure with 4 guys. Yep. So to make that adjustment and put the players that can make the plays in the right position, that was a great adjustment at halftime, and really made that Packers defense really solidify with the missing piece in Kenny Clark. I mean, just getting pressure with 4, that helps the back half of the defense too.
That's right.
I mean, we've seen the corners. There was rarely yards after catch last week, so to have that, if you don't give up yards after catch, you're in a good spot on defense.
Yeah, for sure. So we talked about the question marks on the Packers side. Going over to the New Orleans side, probably not any Michael Thomas suffering from that high ankle sprain. But on top of that, had 2 edge rushers that missed practice in Trey Hendrickson and Marcus Davenport, who, if the name Marcus Davenport sounds familiar, that's because the Saints traded up to get Marcus Davenport and gave the Packers an additional first-round pick. So, it's just one of those things where he hasn't worked out quite like they were hoping, and I don't think this game is going to work out quite like the Saints are hoping. But in order for the Packers to win this game, and I'll go first here, what do you think are the biggest keys? So for me, I don't think you can stop Alvin Kamara, but can you slow him down enough? Even though the Saints lost against the Raiders on Monday night, Alvin Kamara still had a big game. He had almost 80 yards rushing and a touchdown. He was their leading receiver, and he's dangerous out of the backfield. So for me, that's number one, is can the Packers contain or slow down Alvin Kamara? I think if they do, it's a win.
Yeah, that's a big if, though. I mean, I think we need to have a spy on Kamara at all time. Obviously, Drew Brees isn't the mobile quarterback that we have seen in the past. I mean, we're not going to be running around like we were trying after Kirk.
Or Matt Stafford, for that matter.
Or, yeah, even times. Stafford. Like, Drew Brees does move in the pocket, but outside the pocket, I mean, it's not – he's no speed demon. He's no threat. So if we can like you said, contain Alvin Kamara, always have one or two eyes on him, especially if Michael Thomas is out, that's going to limit that Saints offense, because outside of Michael Thomas, and I mean, you got Jared Cook there, but if you limit Alvin Kamara, it should be a relatively easy win, because Drew Brees has been off his first 2 games. I mean, they beat Tampa week 1, and then they had a rough game against the Raiders last week. And I mean, Drew Brees doesn't look like he's on it, and without your number 1 wide receiver, obviously you're going to probably have some struggles. But defensively, I think that's the biggest key, is contain Alvin Kamara. But I will say, I think one of my keys to victory is keep the running game going. Don't go away from what's got us to 2-0 and putting up 42.5 points a game. Keep the running game going. Even if Devontae is limited, keep the running game going. Don't steer away. Yeah, if the first drive we run 3 times and get 6 yards, don't steer away from it. Aaron Jones is that big hitter. I mean, we've seen it last week, that 75-yard run. All it takes is one crease, and he finds it. He has great vision, great balance. Breaks seemingly every tackle. You got to bring him down with 2 to 3 guys. I think Aaron Jones is proving now to be a top-tier running back in this league, and finally getting that recognition that he deserves because of how good of a runner and a receiver out of the backfield he is. You've seen him make a incredible catch down the right sideline over a defender as a running back. That's tough. And I feel like keep that 1-2 punch, and even have A.J. Dillon come in and give a spell 2, 3, 4 carries. I think that's a recipe for success, especially if Devontae can't go at 100%.
Yeah, so your key to the game was kind of my 1B key is, you can't start off slow. And if the Packers start off slow, they get behind by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. You can't do that against good teams.
No.
The Saints are a better team than the Lions, and if they get down early, it's going to mean more passing and less of Aaron Jones. So that's the other thing I think we both agree. You can't start off slow. So Bold prediction for the game. I got one for you here, Brock. We talked about it. Tay, is he going to play? If he plays, is he going to be 100%, 85%? I mean, 85% of Devontae Adams is still one hell of a wide receiver, but MVS up and down, up and down. This game's pure ups. 120 plus yards and a touchdown from MVS this week.
I love that pick. We've seen a couple for the last 2 weeks. He's been one tackle, like just getting shoestring tackled before easy walk-in touchdown. He's got to, I say it, he's got to pick up his feet when he runs. He's a burner, but he's got to pick up his feet because he's always got the people trailing behind him, and they just grab him by the shoestrings, and he goes down 8 yards before a touchdown. Yeah. So if he can do that, I don't see why not have a big game like that. I mean, even look at Lazard. That could be another easy target. I mean, we have talent. It's just if Tay can't go, they need to step up.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've been preaching on that since day one. Those are the two wide receivers that need to step up, and especially if Tay can't go, we need to we need to have them be the number one receivers that we need as a team.
Absolutely.
But one of my keys to the game, I've touched on many times. I mean, if you know me, I'm more of a defensive guy. I think our defensive line needs to have a strong game. We have to start strong. We can't give up, like you said, can't get down big, can't give up a couple easy touchdowns on the first 2 drives. We got to come out and just take over that defensive line, win the trenches. Za'Darius got to have a big game. I think he's due. He's had a solid games. I mean, he got a sack a game so far, but I think it's not just about the sacks anymore. It's about pressure, and if you allow Drew Brees time, he will tear us apart.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Emmanuel Sanders last week for the Saints, who was supposed to be the number one target. Oh, we expect big targets to him. He only got 3 or 4. And he had 1 catch, and it was the last drive of the game that meant virtually nothing. So if we can limit the wide receivers and just contain Alvin Kamara and put the pressure on Drew Brees, I think Pettine needs to have an exotic play calling week because how smart and how savvy Drew Brees is. Defensive line and defensive in a whole needs to put pressure on Drew Brees and not allow him to dictate the game. If we allow him to be clock control, be short 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, we got to keep him in 3rd and 9 plus, like 7 plus.
Yep.
And we got to keep him behind the sticks. I mean, you can say that about every game, but especially when you're facing a guy like Drew Brees, that is he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, easy, obviously, and we need to keep him away from the easy conversions of 3rd down, 2nd down, and just keep the pressure on him, and I think we will be in a very good position to win that game pretty easily.
With that being said, then what do you got for a score prediction for us, Brock?
I would love to have another 40-point game. I mean, who wouldn't? But I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. I think Green Bay wins 27-17. Again, I think the second half really sets us apart. I think it's going to be another low-scoring game where it's like 10-7 at half, and then the second half we make those adjustments. And I mean, Matt LaFleur again has proven 2 weeks in a row that he can make adjustments at halftime, and the team responds. So if we can respond in a positive manner in the second half, once again, it should be a pretty exciting second half, and we're looking at 3-0.
I don't really have much to say, but I have the Packers winning 27-17. So
hey, great minds think alike.
Yeah. So let's just move on to the rest of Week 3, I suppose. So Brock, you and I have both been on fire so far this year with both our picks for pick'em, for just picking the games of the week, our 2 locks and our upset. But on top of that, we've also been on fire with our fantasy picks. Last week we had Mostert, Corey Davis, Aaron Jones, and one other,
Mostert.
Raheem Mostert. Yeah. So
outside of the injury, Raheem Mostert
yep.
had a phenomenal day.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been on fire with everything. We are both 5-1 on the season and our picks. Saquon Barkley getting hurt and the Giants losing to the Bears has been our only blemish this year.
And it was offensive pass interference in the end zone that looked like the Giants were going to take the win, but that it didn't look good early for the Giants. They were down 17-0 at half, and then they did something.
Yep.
And they put themselves in a position to win, but just that's the games you got to have. Like in this league, you can't have those one possession losses. Any team obviously can't have those one possession losses. It'll bite you in the butt later in the season.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, the way we do it for the show, at least 2 locks, 1 upset. We'll go one at a time. We'll start with our locks. My lock number 1 is the Los Angeles Chargers over the Carolina Panthers. I just think, Teddy Bridgewater has been putting up big numbers, but the Chargers slowed down that Chiefs offense
That they did
a lot last week. So Chargers over Carolina. Yep. I expect a big game out of Austin Eckler. I don't think Justin Herbert throws for 300 yards again, but Chargers over Panthers is my number 1.
Yeah, that's a tough game to pull the trigger on, I think, because like you said, Teddy's putting up numbers, but having Christian McCaffrey out, it's going to hurt them. I think it'll hurt Teddy. I feel like it's a good pick, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Panthers win because Herbert, might come out and throw 4 picks. Some would say he overachieved against that Chiefs defense,
for sure.
And he pretty much outplayed Patrick Mahomes for 3.5 quarters. So overachieving probably against, like I said, the Chiefs defense. To go against now a Panthers defense is not as good as the Chiefs, but you can see that Herbert has the quarterback skills to take over a game. But I do like that pick. But my first pick, I think it's a pretty safe pick. Get me an easy win, hopefully. Is the Buccaneers over the Broncos. Broncos are injury ridden. They're bringing in Blake Bortles, but he's not going to play this week. Jeff Driscoll against the Bucks. Tom's going to have a pretty easy day. Leonard Fournette, I feel like, is going to have a pretty easy day.
Yep.
I think that's just a blowout waiting to happen. It sucks because the Broncos had so much upside this year, and then every injury under the moon happened to them. And it's sad to see. We're not Broncos fans, but we're fans of football, and we never want to see a team get that depleted. Same with the 49ers. You don't want to see that. You want to see good football. Week 2 was bad for injuries, and it's sad for a lot of teams. Luckily, the Green Bay Packers weren't on the as bad of side.
Yeah,
they did have a couple injuries, but they're hopefully minor compared to torn ACLs, torn pecs, torn whatever.
Yep.
You don't want to see it. So I'm taking the Bucks over the Broncos for my first pick.
You done did it again. I don't have anything else to say other than I expect a big game out of Chris Godwin. Bucks over Broncos, my second lock of the week.
Hey, what can I say? That's a great pick. But my second lock of the week is the Arizona Cardinals over the Detroit Lions. I feel like Kenyon Drake's in for a big game. We've seen what we did to the Lions the week before that. The Lions gave up a lot of rushing yards. They look good. Cardinals look good early. Having D-Hop there always helps. The defense is still good. You got Chandler Jones on the outside putting the pressure on. Stafford looked banged up against us. Honestly, later in the game, you could see he's kind of wincing every time Za'Darius or Rashawn or somebody he gets hit. He's wincing. He doesn't look 100%. And if Galladay's out again, that's just another piece that Stafford doesn't have. And I mean, another thing for the Lions just to go down 0-3 early in the season.
Yeah, it's not looking too hot for Matt Patricia's job security. It's another story for another time. But upset of the week, I
picked the same one. I know we did.
I have the Joe Burrow-led Cincinnati Bengals over the Philadelphia Eagles.
Let me change it. I'm changing mine.
I think Joe Mixon has a big game. I think Joe Burrow has a big game. AJ Green finally gets into the touchdown. He has like 8 almost touchdowns already this year. But the Bengals defense, you know, it could be a high scoring offensive affair, but the Burrow Bengals beating the Eagles. As of right now, Bengals are 5.5 point underdogs. So from a betting standpoint, you know, I bet that all day. But like I said, I'm taking Bengals outright over the Eagles.
Yep, me too. But I'm gonna switch mine because we can't have 2 picks the same this week. I can do one a week, but not 2. I am going to, I'm gonna pull the trigger on it. I don't know if I necessarily like it, but I'm gonna pull the trigger on it. I'm gonna say the New York Giants beat the 49ers. I'm gonna say it. Got to pull the trigger. I mean, we got to be a little bit different here. I feel like it's a pretty bold pick. I mean, but still, 49ers are down a lot of people. Giants are still down Saquon. But having the 49ers come to New York after coming East Coast the week before, going back to San Francisco, and then coming back, it really could throw a curveball for the 49ers to be in that time zone again. But I hope now that I pick it that the Giants will pull this upset. This is my second week in a row I'm going with the Giants, so I'm a ride with it.
Yeah, I think I could see that happening. I could also see that just being a complete ass whooping. Excuse my language. Hopefully YouTube doesn't cancel us or something. Who cares? But I could see that game going either way, and that's the point for upset picks. You know, they're upsets. They're not supposed to happen. Yeah. We got a little bit more here for you guys. We're bringing the top 5 segment back, sweeping America, but we're going to hold on to that for just a second longer. We got our fantasy studs of the week. Me and Brock were talking about this a little bit pre-show. He doesn't agree necessarily with one of mine, but I'm going with it anyways. My number 1, Miles Sanders. Yes, I picked the Bengals to beat the Eagles, but Nick Chubb just ran bananas. He ran ape shit all over the Bengals last week for the Browns. I think Miles Sanders looked really, really good last week. Miles Sanders.
Kareem Hunt ran well too last week too.
Yep. So Miles Sanders, big game.
My first pick. I mean, it's a pretty easy pick for me. I feel like is Derrick Henry versus Minnesota. Minnesota has not been good against the run. They've given up 54 yards a game, and coming from a defense that is not known for that is kind of startling. I mean, having Danielle Hunter off that line, and I mean, they brought in Yannick, and they brought in pieces to fill that. So it's not. I don't understand what's going on. I mean, they now just lost Anthony Barr to a season-ending injury. Another key linebacker for them. So to get now to the second level, the running game against them could really be hard to stop. I think Derrick Henry, being one of the hardest guys to tackle, isn't going to make that job any easier for the Minnesota defense.
Yeah, agreed. And then the one thing, like you said, teams are averaging 150 rushing yards. JT did it almost by himself last week. The Packers, was a combination of everybody, but Derrick Henry is a one-man show for the Titans. So my next guy, my final guy, is a player who, if I could have him on the Packers, I wish I could. Is that a little bit of foreshadowing? What? My guy, Jerry Jeudy, Denver Broncos. So again, we're recording this on Wednesday evening. He was questionable, or is questionable. Apparently, has a little bit of rib pain going on, but
Maybe he got stabbed by his doctor.
God, my goodness, I hope not. But yes, Jeff Driscoll is their quarterback. Yes, they're going up against the Bucks, who have decent pieces on the defense, but I think they're down big. I think they're passing a lot. And who is he going to pass the ball to? It's going to be Noah Fant, or it's going to be Jerry Jeudy. And Jerry Jeudy is an elite route runner, period. Not a elite rookie route runner. He is an elite route runner. So Jerry Jeudy, 12 catches, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns maybe. Not calling that as a stat line, but I could see that being the floor is the ceiling.
The ceiling is the roof.
That's right.
I'm going staying with the running backs. If you thought 154 yards a game given up was bad, imagine being the Texans giving up 198 yards a game. So I am going James Conner as another pick.
That's cotton.
I mean, yes, he's banged up all the time. I mean, if you want to do that, then you could go Benny Snell. I mean, I feel like the Steelers could run all over the Texans. I mean, Texans haven't looked great. I mean, they're missing a lot of pieces. I mean, getting rid of D-Hop was probably one of the worst. But, I mean, there's still a good team, but I feel like the Steelers have been pretty decent running the ball. And, I mean, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster have been good for them on the offensive side. I feel like James Conner coming off a pretty good week 2 could even follow it up with an even bigger week 3 against this shoddy Texans run defense.
Yeah, so before we go on to our top 5, Brock, I want to ask you just a real quick question, kind of out of the blue. We didn't have time to prep this pre-show. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. 2-0 teams. There's going to be at least one less. Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens. Just real quick, 5-10 seconds. What do you think? Who's taking that game?
Based off the first 2 weeks, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens.
I agree.
I think the Chiefs defense, something's missing. Something ain't right there. I mean, you give up 300 plus yards to a rookie quarterback that ran a little bit. Now you got Lamar and that offense who has been very good. I mean, you got J.K. Dobbins, who's played very well in his third string running back role. He has a couple touchdowns on the season. You got Mark Ingram. You got just a bunch of running backs, and then you got Lamar, Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews. I mean, that defense ain't no slouch either. So I think Baltimore is going to give them problems, but I do think it will be a very fun game to watch. I'm glad they put it in prime time.
Absolutely. Like I said, just wanted to get your opinion. I agree. I think their offenses, could the Chiefs be a little bit better? Maybe. Could the Baltimore Ravens offense be a little bit better? It's a toss-up, but without a doubt, the better defense is on Baltimore. So
yeah, Sammy Watkins is banged up too, so it's something to watch.
Yeah. So
you lose him. I mean, Demarcus Robinson. I mean, they could step up. I mean, there's people that can step up, and they got burners. They got burners in Kansas City. So, but I mean, if you put the pressure on Patty Mahomes, we seen it last week. That Chargers defensive line put the pressure on him, and I mean, made him make a few errant throws here and there, and he's risky with the ball. I will say that Patty Mahomes, as good as he is risky with the ball, and he tries to fit it in some windows that he can't fit, or it's just so close that a defender can make a play. I mean, Chargers had a couple opportunities to really turn the tides of that game and make a couple interceptions or deflections that stop a drive, but they weren't able to do so. So I think Patty Mahomes, if they can get pressure on Patty, I think it could be a rough game for him.
Yeah, for sure. Demarcus Robinson, probably not someone who you want on the Packers if you had to choose between anyone in the NFL. Sammy Watkins, probably not. Tyreek Hill, maybe. So
Travis Kelce?
That is today's top 5. If you could choose any player in the NFL right now to have on the Packers, who would they be? And this isn't, it's a realistic trade. No, don't care. If you had to choose a player, now age, health, all of that, off-field concerns, all factors. Whether or not if it's realistic, don't care. This is pure fantasy, baby. Number 5, Brock, for me, we talked about him a little bit earlier. He's a little bit older than what I thought. George Kittle is my number 5. I was considering going, Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce, but I think just Kittle is a better all-around tight end, especially
great
with how much.
blocker.
Exactly. So George Kittle is my number 5.
My number 5. He is older. I know he is, but he is one of my favorite players. I mean, you know me. I'm a defensive guy. Patrick Peterson. I just love him. He's been one of my favorite players since he got drafted. I used to make him in Madden, create him in Madden when he was still in college because I was that big of a fan of him. I mean, but now obviously he's a little bit slower, but he is still a veteran corner I would love on our team.
I have a corner on my list as well, but I'll have to wait to find out. My number 4, I was debating between 2 offensive linemen here, but I'm going with Big Q. Quentin Nelson is my number 4 player who, if I could choose anyone in the entire NFL, that's who I bring to the Packers.
Could you imagine him on the other side of Elton?
Elton, yep.
Because he is my number 4 pick, Mr. Quentin Nelson. To put him on the opposite side of him, oh my.
Yep.
Aaron Jones is already averaging 150 yards a game. Could you imagine? No. It'd be unfair. No one would get through that offensive line. You know that.
That's right.
Because don't forget about Bach.
Yep.
Lindsley's
they need
great
to
in the middle.
quit messing around and sign him long term.
Get him signed
now.
Sign Bach.
My number
sign
3.
Bach.
That's right. We'll get it trending. Go Pack, go. Sign Bach. Chug a beer. My number 3. We're sticking with the Indianapolis Colts. Darius Leonard. There's a lot of young linebackers to choose from. Devin White. Brock. I want.
Leading tackler in the NFL so far.
Yep, but I went Darius Leonard. It was tight between those two, but sticking with him as my number 3.
I also went linebacker at number 3, but not the same. I do like the Darius Leonard pick, but I wanted him in this draft. You wanted him in this draft. He went a little earlier. Mr. Kenneth Murray.
Yeah.
I think he is a good young talent. He is a solid, great leader. So young, so fast. I mean,
yeah,
we loved him in the draft. That was probably our number 1A pick.
Yeah.
We wanted another wide receiver at our pick, but Kenneth Murray, I think, would be real nice right next to Christian Kirk.
Oh, for sure. My number 2 is where my cornerback comes in. Could have been Pat Pete. Could have been Jalen Ramsey. Could have been Stephon Gilmore. None of the above. I'm going with Tre'Davious White, okay. Buffalo Bills cornerback.
Solid pick.
Yep.
You know who would really look good in green and gold? This is off my list, not off my list. Sorry. If Casey Hayward was still in the green and gold, that'd be fucking great.
Weird. It's like you should re-sign the players you draft or something. I don't know.
Great, or even Micah Hyde.
It's weird.
Yeah. No.
Oh, goodness gracious.
But on to my pick. Number 2. We need a little wide receiver help. You mentioned him earlier, having a big game. Chris Godwin. I would love him on the other side of Devontae. And speed, hands. It's great. It's great. He's great.
It's like I need to go smoke a cigarette or now something. I'm getting all flustered in here. Woo! I would tell you, that just does things to me. My number one, not sticking with a sexy position, going up front.
Big Ugly?
The best defensive player in the NFL. Yes, he's a little bit older. No, he's not a perfect scheme fit, but you will make a scheme fit, or he can fit any scheme. Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
Easy number one for me.
I don't know how he didn't make my top 5. Maybe it's because I love Kenny Clark and just overlooked it.
This is one of those things where, is he best suited in a 4-3 defense? Probably, but could you put him at left end or right end?
Oh, easily.
Absolutely.
He can play linebacker. Look at him.
Oh, Jesus.
Look at him.
He threw a grown man the other day.
He throws grown men every week.
That's right.
He's absolutely an animal. But
number one, Aaron Donald.
For me not to pick him, I feel in my top 5, I do feel like I failed.
It's tough.
But you didn't have this guy in your top 5. And I would love him right next to right next to Adrian Amos, Mr. Jamal Adams. If you watch that game against the Patriots, he is all over the field, laying the wood, tipping balls, trying to punch balls out. You can plug him in anywhere. Jamal Adams will work. When the Jets said they were looking to trade him, I was like, please, I'd give a first round pick for him. I would. He is, I think, one of, if not the best safety in the league right now.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
To put and even have, Savage could go play
slot corner, nickel. Yep.
Yeah, nickel or any like you want to put Jamal Adams on the outside linebacker, have him guard a tight end. He'll do it. He can do it.
Damn right.
That Jamal Adams, man. He wouldn't be able to wear number 33 in Green Bay, but
Yeah. Honorable mention from my side. I mentioned, I was debating between 2 offensive linemen earlier. I'm going to sneak this one in here. I went with Quentin Nelson, but my second best, he's young. He's a great right tackle. It's Ryan Ramczyk, Wisconsin Badger, baby, for the Saints. I think that's my honorable mention. But
I do not have an honorable mention. But if
Casey Hayward.
If I did, give me Aaron Donald.
Yep, that's right. There it is. Makes his way into it. Let's go.
Yep, there we go.
All right. So with that being said, guys, we're going to wrap it up. You can give us a follow on all of our social medias, on Twitter at Jock Talk Show, Facebook.com/Jock Talk Show, Instagram at Jock.talk. Brock, just as usual, you can do the Tic Tacs,
At Jock Talk 6024. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. It'll be up here real shortly. Like us, share us with your friends, with your grandma, your dog,
grandparents
your cat.
Love us.
They do. They do. I have the beard. He has nothing. So it's mostly just me that the parents love. They get creeped out by Mr. Matt. But share us. Get us around. We got 100 likes on Facebook. Hey, make it 200. Make it 300. Let's keep this thing going. Keep it growing. And, as we always say here, go Pack go.
Go Pack go. All right. With that being said, guys, take it easy. We'll talk to you next time.